Hello, everyone. Welcome to ForcedToPod, a Force to White production. My name is Saxon, but you can call me Sax. Joining me tonight, I have the man who knows no stranger nor pepper too spicy. Well, actually, maybe just a couple of them. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, no problem, man. You're welcome every week, and you keep showing up, so we appreciate
Everybody
that.
heard that, so I am welcome every week. So things are about to get weird.
We got all sorts of fingers and toes crossed on that one, so it won't hold up in court. And last but not least, we have the man who rather always be outside than wherever he's at right now, which is still his fiance's childhood bedroom. The man, the myth, the legend, one only. I am the mountain man. How you doing, Walker?
I'm well. I'm literally counting the days.
Let's go.
we
We were just
just
talking
spoke
about that.
it. 17 days as of this moment.
Yeah, we had a riveting discussion as Nick was getting set up. He could see our mouths moving. He could not hear us. We were talking about your moving plans, getting ghosted, and potential job interviews, and then we started talking about the Social Security system. No clue. Oh, it was getting pushed out of jobs, trying to look for a job.
Yeah.
My dad looking at a job in his looking for a job in his mid 50s, and all kinds of sorts of stuff there. So, you may get a conversation if you're listening to this. You may get a conversation on Social Security. Talking about equity and equality and all that kind of stuff at some point, because it seems like we had stuff to talk about, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. So I just boys, what we've been up to this week. I'll start with what I've done tonight, and then I just want to do that, and then Nick and I had some fun this past weekend, but we'll get into that in a second. Tonight I had the opportunity to meet some fellow younger people who live in our neighborhood. So for those of you who do know, we live in a neighborhood that's there's a lot of retirees, different people. We gave our realtor what we were looking for. We said, hey, we want a place that we don't have to renovate, and basically looking for a place that we could host, families and stuff. They want to come down and visit us. Our family's in Indiana. We're here in Louisville. Have guests over and stuff, and we came and visited, and we loved it. We didn't know who lived in the neighborhood. We just kind of did that, and then slowly but surely, we just started seeing, like, man, we're quite a bit younger than everyone else. So, anyways, we connected with a few other younger people. Nick, you'll find this interesting. Sorry, Google's talking to me. My Google speaker thought I was talking to it. Nick, you'll find this interesting. One of the guys, when I was looking through the Facebook group, I had one mutual friend, and it was actually Lottie from Marion.
Oh, nice.
Lottie was a student at Marion in the osteopathic medicine school. So he was there doing his DO degree. And so I look, and this guy graduated in 2022 from Marion. And what's funny is I worked at Marion University in Indianapolis from 2018 to 2022. So my running joke is that I, air quotes, graduated from Marion as well, because I went the whole time there. So we had a good conversation about that. He's here in Louisville for his residency, and we happen to just live in the same neighborhood. So I'm sure I probably helped him at some point with his computers and stuff. So yeah, we had a delightful night with them. We went over. I walk a lot through our neighborhood, so I had gone through and ran into another younger guy, and he's very personable, and he said, hey, I've seen you walking around, just wanted to introduce myself. And he just sent me a Facebook message earlier today, because we had added each other on there, and he just invited us to have some chili at their place. So it was a good time, just meeting some people and doing whatever and being more personable than I usually am. I can turn it on for a little bit, but usually I'm a little more introverted and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's a shocker or whatever. So Walker, what have you been up to this week?
Oh man, fuck all. It's been a very slow week, actually.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it does.
I'm working my ass off, basically. We're pushing for some serious deadlines at the office, and I've been doing a lot of nose to the grindstone.
Gotcha.
Basically.
There you go. Nick, how about you, man?
The opposite of that. I was actually just yeah. As you know, we had a pretty long weekend of running around, but I was actually complaining. Well, not really complaining, just ruminating or thinking about how. Well, I was talking to the guys at work today about how everything at work seems to be blown up for everybody except for me. All of my customers have been unusually quiet. I have very few tickets coming in. Like, I'm just kind of hanging out waiting for stuff to break. The unfortunate news is that I am on call this week, and we are supposed to move our instance from on-prem to the cloud. And the last time we tried to do that last month, everything broke. And so that's, as of right now, scheduled for tomorrow evening. So I might have spoken too soon about things being quiet, but personal life, actually, I was just kind of thinking tonight, it's been nice because we're not like running around doing stuff with the kids for the last couple of weeks because softball's over. Riley's still cheerleading, but there haven't been any like home football games, and basketball hasn't started yet. So it's just been practice, and trying to get caught up rebuilding, reorganizing, and decluttering everything from the wedding. And Reagan's birthday's coming up, so we're getting rid of a bunch of toys and stuff that, you know, she doesn't need, and make room for new stuff. So yeah,
just bouncing around. It's good stuff. Yeah, we got the opportunity. We talked about it last week, but you, Kristen, and the girls did end up coming down. We got to hang out on Saturday. That was cool, man. That was awesome. I know it was a late night for you guys, very late night. I don't know if you were expecting that late of an evening.
Yeah, it kind of was. The return time was, I mean, we got back at right about 1:15 in the morning, which wasn't so bad. The drive back from Louisville was really easy. I mean, I had cruise control set at 80 and there was no traffic. Really, the worst part of the night was Reagan's eyeball swelling up after she was playing with the cat.
Yeah, BK got some much needed attention and energy out earlier in the night, and Reagan was playing. We got him this little like Y-shaped tube, and then we have the toy. It's like a little bird on a string that's on the end of the stick, and Reagan was playing and stuff. And as you guys noted, like she's like, you know, she's a toucher, like whatever. She's gonna walk through the store, things like that. You guys mentioned that a couple of times, and you know, petting BK and
any
stuff.
Animal,
yeah. So petting, and then she must have went to her eye at some point. So then we get to the restaurant that we were going to before going to see all the jack-o'-lanterns, and her right eye just started swelling up, and you could tell she was not excited about it. And Kristen was a little worried. I mean, rightfully so, but was a little worried. More worried than you were. I could sense that you were like, she'll probably be fine.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I've told you and Heather, anytime I'm around cats, I like cats, but anytime I'm around them, my eyes will get itchy for an amount of time, and then it'll go away after a little bit. The eye drops definitely helped, but it was weird because she's been around cats and stuff before, and that's never been a problem. But her right eye underneath, she had hives, and it was like swollen halfway shut. It was for a little bit, it was a little bit worrisome, but then we're in the restaurant, we're away from the house. She washed her hands, put eye drops in, and it started to go away pretty quick. So it was all good.
Yeah, Kristen telling this story about like trying to put the eye drops in, then her sprinting away in the bathroom from her because she didn't want any more eye drops was very funny. I was trying to not like, I don't know. I'm very familiar with you, but I'm still getting to know the girls and Kristen and stuff. So I'm trying not to like, okay, is this something like, can we just cut up about that? Because that's fucking hilarious. You know, the mental image of her sprinting around the bathroom, like just crying, like not, because obviously eye drops suck, like for anyone. I think just as adults, we understand like, hey, temporary pain, like get this through, you know, it's going to help substantially, but telling a child that, like, I mean,
there's no 7-year-old brain. You can't reason with it a lot of times. It's tough, but no, you're right. It is hilarious. Unless I'm the one who's trying to do that sort of thing, eye drops or give her medicine or whatever. That's frustrating, but it is funny, especially in retrospect.
Yeah. So the big question I have for you, we were talking about it tonight with the folks that we were dining with tonight. Was it worth it? What did you think about the jack-o'-lanterns? What was the overall vibe with the girls and stuff?
I think it was worth it, and I think it was worth it for Kristen. Kristen was really excited. Like I've mentioned before, she's a big time spooky season goer and admirer. So she actually, the other day, she went to the store. She's like, I got to run to the store and go get a couple things for the house. Came back with like some groceries, and then I go outside later and there's 2 pumpkins on the porch. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought it was really cool. My biggest complaint was, I don't know, there were too many people.
Oh yeah.
I like to enjoy things like that at my own pace.
Oh,
and have a little more freedom to move around. But I understand the situation, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. And there were some really cool jack-o'-lanterns.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of time and effort and money thrown into that. So yeah, we had a good time. They liked it. Seemed like they liked it. And then they slept most of the way home. So
yeah, I figured they get knocked out right after that. So
Kristen and I were talking about it. The length of time that it took us to get through was just about perfect, because right at the end, Reagan gave us the old, "Are we almost done?" kind of thing. I'm like, yes, the exit is right there. And then I mentioned it to you guys while we were walking back to the car. We like beelined toward the car off of the little paved path, the little driveway area. And we were just walking through the grass, and there's some movement up in the grass. And Kristen's like, "What is that?" And I look at it for a second. It was a skunk. I'm like, oh, no. It's a skunk. And she goes, "Okay, well, we're going to go around." I'm like, I don't think it would bother us. And then he went into a little hole underneath the tree. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I've seen skunks before. They don't bother you unless you're really getting after them.
Walker, you probably... Yeah, I was going to say, you probably have more of an opinion on it, but skunks kind of fall into a similar mindset for me as like Quicksand and catching on fire. It's the things you hear of as a child that like you get so specifically said, like, okay, if you're caught in quicksand, do not move because you're only going to sink faster. But like, you don't ever hear, or the amount of times I'm told to stop, drop, and roll, like I'm going to just like spontaneously combust at some point in my life. But I understand it probably does work, but I don't know.
Tomato juice.
Skunks kind of fall in the same zone for me with that, where it's like I was just so concerned as a child, and I'm like, man, I haven't ever come across a skunk myself. Like I know they exist, and like, but the threat of them like spraying me, it's like I can smell them. Well, sometimes I think that's not an actual skunk, but
we saw them at when I was in the National Guard at Camp Atterbury a couple of times. We were out in the field, and we had like we called it a staging area where we'd come back before we'd go back to the armory and go home. And it was basically just a really big gravel lot that we'd set up all our equipment in. And there'd be dumpsters, and everybody's throwing bags of trash, and it's all got MRE food and coffee grounds and stuff. So there'd always be a couple skunks out there rooting around in the trash. We'd always see them. Unfortunately, nobody in my unit ever was dumb enough to get sprayed. That would have been pretty funny, but
yeah, doing the thing. Well, another thing that I guess as a child knowing about, this is my attempt to the segue here, but not understanding was an actual thing until we kind of discussed it earlier today. I think I knew somewhere in my head, but I've never like actually thought about it. Walker, you brought up that you wanted to discuss something about Roadrunners in Texas as our nature time with the mountain man tonight. So I was wondering,
I'm a big fan of University of Texas San Antonio's football team.
Yeah, that's not real, man. Football, but I've been doing a lot of reviewing images from trail cameras all week, and there's I do it for the state of Texas to volunteer time to keep track of animals on public land. And this week's images, there were just tons and tons of Roadrunner pics. I'm pretty sure it's the same Roadrunner actually, just coming back for water again and again and again. But he's just giving the camera some real funny looks, and I was thinking about how much I appreciate them, and they're funky little dudes. Actually, I don't know. Have you ever seen a picture of a?
Nope, I'm looking up right now.
Yeah, they're hilarious.
They're actually in the cuckoo family. They're ground cuckoos. I don't know that they're.
I got a couple of them in my family
per se, but they pretty much run along the dirt.
Yeah,
they're voracious predators. You'll often see them with lizards hanging out of their mouths.
Mm-hmm.
They'll eat other birds. They'll eat pretty much anything, and just sort of sprint around looking funky. It really makes me think of dinosaurs every time I see them. They really,
this is the most dinosaur looking bird. Like how I can tell it's carrying itself. Now, this probably is a dumb question. None of these pictures have its wings out. Is this bird mostly on the ground?
Like, honestly, like like for sure.
Like it can fly though, right? Like
I don't know. Honestly, I have not seen it. I don't
like there
know.
is not a single picture on this of this bird not standing on the ground. And I guess that's the main reason it comes to mind. Now I understand I Google searched Roadrunner, so like
I think they're like peacocks or turkeys or whatever. They fly for short distances.
I got you.
They can do it, but not well, and they're so much better adapted to running.
There is one picture of it, but it does not look efficient by any means. Its feathers do not look. It's a
terribly.
I don't know what I'm talking about. It could be the most like graceful thing I've ever seen, but the picture doesn't look like that. So, yeah, no, very interesting.
I was just thinking about this week how much I appreciated them. They're not something I got at all up in Maine. Obviously, they are desert dwellers, and I was just getting so many good images of them sprinting around. It was really cool. I think their eye coloration is just really pretty, and they're great critters of the desert. So that was my thoughts about nature for the week. Very simple, but
I could also see how they could be funny, like coming onto the trail cam, like because they look like just little dudes, like is like just like so. How do the trail cams work? Are they like security cameras that like when they sense movement, then they start recording? Because obviously that would be way too much footage, but. So yeah,
we have
just
them set
like
up to take
that
pictures.
active.
We have them set up to just take pictures. So they'll sense movement, they'll take a picture, and then they'll lock themselves out for an amount of time. We have it set up for 30 seconds so that you're not getting like the blade of grass waving back and forth. Right?
Yeah.
But you'll still get a ton of that. But we just have them set up around water sources, main trails and stuff, and then see what there is to see. This week was busy, actually. Got 10 Roadrunner sightings, a couple coyotes, a couple deer, rabbits, a ton of cardinals, and then a mother bobcat and her cub, which was really nice to see.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was, and a turtle actually. So
how about Florida Panthers?
No Florida Panthers.
Nobody has ever seen a panther in Florida. I'll tell you that much right now.
I'm gonna get Nick worked out.
You're gonna derail this whole schedule that we had when I'm gonna go on a rant about puma concolors and how they're not in the panther family. But
yeah. But we do have mountain lions. They're just few and far between, and you never see them ever.
Yeah, even people who go on hunts like barely ever find them. They had to track them with dogs and stuff because they're so hard to get.
They are ridiculously sneaky. I have not seen one in the wild yet, and it'll be a while before I do.
So hope I do, though. Let me ask you this, and again, this is just from me having like I keep prefacing saying like this might be a dumb question, but it's an honest, earnest question. What is what is considered like the apex predator in Texas? Not counting humans, but
definitely a mountain lion. They exist. They'll eat the pigs a lot. But I don't know off the top of my head what an average mountain lion's range is. It's large, and they don't intermingle terribly well. So there's not that many of them.
Gotcha.
They would definitely be the apex predator, but not a day-to-day predator. Certainly much more coyotes. In terms of other major predators, the pigs are honestly really bad because they're omnivores, and so they'll eat quail chicks and small birds, and I mean pretty much anything they can get their mouths on, the other pigs. Like just voracious. I've caught them eating the carcasses of pigs that I've killed like earlier that day. They are nasty little critters.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of what I was thinking. I figured that they were when you're like, you like can't find them. It's like, well, if something can move that, that stealthily and stuff, I'm like,
they climb climb trees, mountains, like they're called a mountain lion for a reason. They'll go up cliffs and all kinds of nonsense. They're very hard to get to.
Yeah.
They're also really in the scheme of big cats. They're not that big. They're like large dog size. way stronger.
Which makes it easier to hide, obviously.
Right. And they're the same color as the desert.
It's fair.
Yeah. Yep. I hope I get a chance to see one day, but I'm not holding my breath because they are sneaky.
Yeah. Now, is that something where you're out wandering and you see one? Are you feeling threatened in that moment? Or do you think you're going to scare it as much as it would scare you?
If I see it, I'm not worried, because if it was hunting me, I would not see it.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, like, not to be facetious, but that's I think the
No,
truth.
I mean, that's fair.
I am not particularly worried about bears. I have a bone to pick with people who are carrying handguns around in the woods for bear protection, because it's stupid. But
Yeah.
I'm way more afraid of like a moose. A moose will mess you up. If you're up in Alaska, I'm more concerned about a moose than a bear. Like in Colorado, bears are still definitely your biggest concern. But bear spray is far more efficacious than a firearm. Especially considering most morons with a gun can't aim for shit, especially when they're being charged by a grizzly.
Yeah.
Right. There's not a very large area to hit with a gun to kill a bear.
No, they'll just soak up bullets.
Yeah.
It's stupid. People do it because it looks cool. I firmly believe that.
That's fine.
Yeah,
People do a lot of stuff in life just because
I think it's okay to carry a 350 Magnum 6-shot or 357 Magnum 6-shot with you, as long as you admit that you're only doing it because you think it looks cool, not because you think it's.
Be my guest. Just do your little woods cosplay. But if you're trying to protect yourself from bears, wear bells, store your food properly, and carry bear spray.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
What's in bear spray? Bear spray.
It's just like ultra pepper spray.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's just pepper spray. So you can just you spray a cloud in front of you, right? And you're not having to aim, really. You're just sort of deterring the bear in that way.
I'd actually never seen a video of bear spray being deployed until like this week. And it is incredibly aggressive because the cans are huge and it's a literal cloud that comes out very, very quickly. It's very impressive.
Can the bears sense it before they hit it, or do they have to run through it to kind of get that effectiveness? You know what I mean?
That's a good question. I mean, like, they might see it, but if the bear's pissed off enough at you to be charging, I don't think they care until they hit it. I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think the idea is that capsaicin attacks your soft tissue, makes your eyes and nose and mouth not feel good.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if the scent and how potent it was enough to like particles in the air before you hit that, because you were mentioning like an actual cloud, like a visible cloud. Like I wonder if it would be strong enough where like in theory you could kind of like guard off the area, if that makes sense. Like if you saw them before they saw you or something like that sort?
I think if you're in that situation where you walk up and you see a bear before it sees you, your best bet is to try and be very loud and make yourself look large and scare it away. And if you can't do that, then you have to, the bear spray has to make it onto the face of the bear, or it's not going to do anything.
No.
Besides make you a spicy snack.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, like, in terms of things you can do against grizzly bears, bear spray's your best option, but just don't, be loud, run away. Well,
sorry, I just had to, so I have it muted, but I started watching a video. It's called Bear Spray Scenarios and Demonstration. And at about 151, there's this old man. You can just tell like he's just papaw. He's someone's papaw.
Right,
he's got bear spray in there. And I have it muted, but I can tell. So this channel is called Be Bear Aware. All one word. And he has the bear spray and he sprays it. And you can tell he's screaming at the top of his lungs. And he's telling you, like, when you spray the bear spray to get as loud as possible when you do it. And it was just so funny. It got me so funny, like, just seeing him just go, like, but I can't hear him. I just see him, like, spray this orange spray in front of him and just scream violently. So, yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for Thanks for divulging that information. I know I kind of derailed us away from the Roadrunner conversation,
a little bit, but it's good. It's good to know bear spray is a very efficacious method of preventing bear attacks.
Yeah, we went.
I will say your best bet to not get attacked by bears: don't go where bears are.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice.
In case anybody listening is extremely worried about being eaten by a bear, don't go to bear territory.
Yeah. Don't. I'm not even that worried about it. If I am in bear territory, to hide your food. Don't get between a mother bear and its cubs and be loud. Probably fine.
We went to for Memorial Day last year. We went with Heather's family to Gatlinburg, and they just had stuff everywhere. Like, don't feed the bears, don't leave any food out, stuff like that. All of the outdoor trash cans for the trash companies come like padlocked up, like you had to get the key from inside, like all that stuff. And we're like, how bad could it actually be? And like, I mean, our bedroom was right next to the porch where there was a hot tub, and the bear was trying to get into the hot tub one night. Like, we heard it like rustling around. We pull the curtain back. It's trying to flip the hot tub up looking for food and stuff. So, or the cover up or whatever. So
yeah, black bears are essentially just extremely large raccoons.
Yeah.
Yep. All black bears just looking for food. Yeah, everything.
No grizzlies in Tennessee, unless something has gone horribly wrong.
We might have to have a whole another episode on non-native species.
Yeah,
I feel like we've talked about it every single episode. Like, we've sprinkled in
Sax.
I've gotten.
I'm not saying it's not.
About the most. But on to our main topic of this evening. Yeah. Sax, take it away.
All right. I thought you were going to segue us. I was actually really excited for that. So
that was my segue. Start
the exact opposite of nature talk. We're going to talk about not touching grass. We're going to talk about the games we've been playing. Now, we were just discussing before, and anyone who's got this far into the podcast episode, I don't mind telling you, we are working on an episode where we're going to go a little deeper on the new dungeon, Vespers host that Bungie has released into Destiny 2 with this season. Our thoughts on it. We're going to have some guest appearances on there. We're still working out all the details on that. However, that should be released in the next next week and a half, probably. Going to kind of help fill the gap a little bit while I'm traveling and we have stuff going on. So I'm not necessarily going to get into all the details of that dungeon tonight for my portion of it, but I wanted to talk to you guys. Nick, I'm going to start with you. You've been playing a little bit of Diablo 4's latest expansion, Vessels of Hatred. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Vessel of Hatred. So here's a spoiler for anybody who didn't play the main campaign. Is it okay to give? I mean, it's been a year, right? The game's been out for a while.
Yeah, I think
pause
so.
now if you don't want to listen.
I wouldn't go into any spoilers for the expansion, but
no.
Maybe a little. I
mean, just the overall idea is that you have Mephisto, a primeval contained in a soul stone, and the whole plot of the expansion is trying to figure out what to do with that now that you've defeated Lilith in hell and everything's still not good. Yeah, so the trailer dropped. Actually, it took me forever to finish the campaign of the base game, and it took way longer than all of my friends, which was whatever. I have a lot going on. Some of my friends literally took off work to play it. So by the time I finished it, I think it was a couple weeks later, the trailer dropped for Vessel of Hatred, and it was like, oh, this is still fresh in my mind. I'm very excited. I really loved the campaign, the cutscenes, all of the lore and everything around it. I thought it was great. And then they dropped the trailer and they're like, hey, by the way, this is where we're going next. And I got really pumped up. And that was, I think, it was the beginning of the year. So it's been, I don't know, 9 months since that, 6 months at least. So I was kind of bummed when I figured it out. But then I had a lot of stuff going on and it just dropped. So I played pretty much a week or two when I had free time in the evening or whatever. Just that was all I did. Well, not all I did, but that was all I played. And unfortunately, it was only about 12 hours of gameplay because I didn't do any of the side quests and all the open world stuff. I'll get into that more now that I finished the campaign. There's a lot of cool season stuff that's opened up and new mechanics. There's a new class, Spiritborn class, which is actually pretty fun. The build is very interesting. There's a lot of cool mechanics going on with it. But yeah, I finished the campaign. I thought it was great. Unfortunately, they left us on another huge cliffhanger. So, they've got me for another $50 or whatever when the next expansion comes out. I think our working theory is that there will be a couple more, maybe one per year while they're working on other stuff, which I'm fine with. If I can't save up $50 in a year to buy the video game, then I got other things to focus on. So, I had a good time. I haven't played with any of my friends yet. I am looking forward to that whenever anybody's available to hop in and do some dungeons and stuff. I did a few on my own that felt pretty easy. I don't know if I over leveled my character. I think it's supposed to kind of, the leveling is supposed to kind of go up and down, but it's been a good time. The art was still great. Even on Xbox, it looked pretty good. I did play a couple of bits of the campaign on my PC, and I got all the new drivers installed for my graphics card and stuff, so it looked great. I think the storyline was pretty good. Like I said, big old cliffhanger, and I'm excited to see where they go with that. But
now, one question I have: do you play when you play on your Xbox? Do you play on the same monitor, or do you play in a different location?
No, so my Xbox is upstairs in the living room. I play on my I play on my TV, which is nice because the TV is pretty new. It has 4K, HDR, all that nonsense, so it looks good with the Xbox. But yeah, when I play on my PC, I just I have my standard old 4K monitor down here. I will say, full disclosure, when I play Diablo, I do play with a controller.
Oh, I love it. I love it way more personally.
Yeah, I initially started playing on mouse and keyboard, and then when I bought my Xbox, I bought it specifically because it was marked down by like several $100s, and it came with Diablo. It was like some Black Friday deal or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. I can play upstairs, downstairs, whatever. And then once I started playing on the Xbox, I was like, controller's way too easy. Because there are only so many options you can do for attacks and defenses and whatnot. So it doesn't really, I know we've talked about it before, like with Baldur's Gate, you have way more options. Yeah, so it just doesn't make any sense to me to like try and relearn mouse and keyboard for this game.
Yeah. I immediately, so back when Diablo 4 did its beta, did like an open beta, which was super funny because it would run our PCs so aggressively that it would blow our breaker because Heather and I had both of our PCs plugged into the same outlet in our apartment that we were in. And that was fixed by the time the main game came out. The ramp ups, I think obviously it wasn't running the entire time. I think it was just like the aggressive ramping up of power draw that it was doing, was throwing it. So I ended up having to get like an extension cord out and running Heather's PC to a different power outlet, literally to fix it. But we had a great time with it. And then I bought Diablo 4 for herself, for myself as well. I played quite a bit of it, but then just realizing how deep the well was as far as build crafting, what it would actually look like to try to take down like Uber Lilith and stuff at the end and all that stuff. Like that's the stuff I wanted to do. But I was like, with everything that was happening with Destiny and stuff too, I was like, I can't split myself that many ways with live service games and things of that sort. So,
well, Diablo is like the only game that I've really gotten into where you kind of do that, build a class, and you have several different builds that you can do, and you're unlocking skill points and changing, rebuilding all of your stats, and so I don't get as deep into it as some people I know. I'm not all about like min-maxing and all that.
Sure.
So once I find something that works, I just kind of roll with it. Even if it sucks a little bit, I'll try and figure out how to make it work. But like like you said, there's just so much, because once you get to level 60, you unlock a whole separate page of your Paragon, and it's just all other different kinds of stuff that add on to your attacks and defenses. And you can really sink a lot of time into it. Which is not something I generally do with video games outside of Forza Horizon 5. So,
Walker, did you ever touch Diablo?
Very briefly. How many hours do I have in Diablo? Let's see. What does Steam say?
Is it on Steam or is it the Battle.net?
Oh, it is Battle.net. Yeah.
I don't even think I have Battle.net installed at this point.
No more than 10 hours, certainly. No more than 10 hours.
Yeah.
I liked it. I enjoyed
so you did
Diablo
not beat 3. You didn't beat the main campaign?
No, certainly not.
Gotcha.
I think I got in like midway through Act 2 or something.
Yeah, there were 5 acts and they were all long as hell. It was good, but like the first couple of acts you don't even have a mount. So you're just literally hoofing it all the way across the map. You know, you can't hop on a horse or whatever and ride. It got a little grindy at a certain point. I think that's when I stepped away before I came back and finished it.
Honest to God, I was just mad I couldn't be the paladin or whatever. I was like, I was so ready because that was like my shit in Diablo 3. And they're like, go to hell. No paladin. And then I was like, I guess I'll be a barbarian, but I was never excited about it. And that just kind of like honestly ruined the game for me.
Yeah, I can see that. There are definitely some classes I think you can run that are really fun. I actually played through the whole campaign of the base as a rogue and was just like getting very disheartened with like some of the boss fights and how close combat I had to be to really make it efficient. And then I played a seasonal character with my buddies and I picked a necromancer and things got way more fun. You're just summoning small armies of minions and golems and stuff, and they're just beating up all the demons for you. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it was fun. I loved Diablo 3, and the recipe is definitely pretty great. It's just call me when they bring the Crusader back, and I'll join up. But no, it was a good game. I don't think I'll ever finish it, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's fine. Watch, just do yourself a favor and just watch all the cutscenes on
they're so
YouTube
good.
or whatever. Yeah, it was good.
I had no interest, and then I saw basically the opening cutscene of Diablo 4 when I think they revealed it as some sort of like E3 equivalent, maybe like the Summer Games Fest or something of that sort. And I mean, absolute like full body chills. I'm like, this is so sick. I've never touched a Diablo game in any capacity, and I'm like, I must play this. And then getting into it, I loved the gameplay. I loved everything about the base game. I had a lot of fun exploring the full map, getting all the statues and doing everything of that sort. And then I just could not. I understand the mechanic of like seasonal characters and running that back up, right? Like that being how you keep progression in the game and doing that kind of stuff. But I could not bring myself to say like, okay, I'm willing to do both Diablo 4 and Destiny 2 and still play any of these open world games that, the first person, whatever, or third person games, story driven games that I wanted to play. And I was just like, nope, can't do it. So I do still have interest in playing Vessel of Hatred. I honestly don't know what gaming for the rest of the year looks like for me. Like, I am having a good time, reinvested interest right now with Destiny, but like, I don't know what the rest of the year looks like. So it very well could be a situation where I say, hey, like we come back from our trip, got the holidays coming up, things of that sort. I might kind of like settle into it a little bit, kind of touch on that. But Walker, have you been playing? I know, obviously, I knew you booted up Destiny for a little bit. I know you haven't been playing a ton outside of that. Hollow was telling us how you had to, you and T both had to run the opening mission, before you guys could do it the day that the dungeon came out, which cracked me up.
Actually, yeah, no, I have not been playing a ton of video games. T and I actually were playing some Helldivers, which was my game to bring to the evening. I was thinking about that because I have not played a ton of video games this year. Like, well, this back half of the year, I've just been it's really sad. I've been working a ton, and yeah, that's end of list.
Sure.
Basically, doing the move and then the wedding and then all the other good stuff. But I don't know. I need to finish my Armored Core run. That's on my list for sure.
That's something I never was able to bring myself to even venture into, but I know there weren't a ton of people who did, but I knew that you at least started it. I wasn't sure where you got to.
I got close actually. It's made by FromSoft. It is not Dark Souls in the slightest. It is very different. It is super fast paced. The missions are like 5 minutes or whatever.
I like that.
It's cool. It's actually super cool. You just run and gun basically. Reward speed. It's not. I mean, there's no comparison to any Souls game.
Did you ever play Returnal?
I didn't, and that's something that I probably would do if it was like on real sale. I do have a hard time with roguelikes, honestly.
Yeah. I didn't know if you'd like the gameplay of it. Now, I mean, obviously, I know that is a part of the gameplay, but I was thinking more like the bullet hell type gameplay that you have.
It's actually a very good comparison, actually, to the way that
that's kind of what I was thinking, because I've watched a lot of people play Armored Core, and it's a lot of like, obviously the things it does share with other FromSoft games is learning a lot of boss or enemy behaviors and things of that sort. But it is a lot of like, okay, there's just so much coming at me at the same time. Like they're just firing everything, sending it my way, and just being able to dodge and stay out of it, and kind of have this dance with the AI, so to speak.
Yeah, so it's a good game. I need to finish it. I got pretty close. I think 1 or 2 missions away from the end. So that's on my list. And then playing more Helldivers, because that was what I was going to talk about tonight. Is I think that they did a very good job in their game, post-release game development, if you will. The way that they're patching and interacting with the community. Because for those of you who don't know, it was Helldivers 1 was a PS3, PS4 game, top-down, twin-stick shooter. Tons of fun. I played it with my buddies in high school, loved it. And they released Helldivers 2 earlier this year, I think. And it just sort of blew up. It's a third-person shooter now, and the whole premise is it's like oh gosh, it's like the Starship Troopers movie, like the hilarious, patriotic in the extreme, satirizing capitalism and ultra patriotism, and you have to bring liberty and democracy to the uncivilized aliens. But it's a great game. It lives and breathes friendly fire. And you will die repeatedly. And so what they've done is they sort of initially, some stuff was too strong, and so they took a nerf pass on a lot of things, but they sort of backed that off, and recently they've basically just buffed things across the board and made it more ridiculous, decreased survivability. There's more friendly fire stuff happening, and it's easier to kill the enemies. And it was really refreshing to play something that they sort of just, and to be fair, this is not a competitive. There's no competitive PvP.
Sure.
Despite what your ability to shoot your friends might make you think.
Yeah, there's PvP, but it's not intended nor competitive. It is
no. But they have more flexibility there. But they really sort of leaned into the, fuck it, this would be really hilarious if we did XYZ. And it's been a while since I found a game that found a nice balance there of just caring more about what was really fun than what was strictly balanced. So I want to give them props, because it's just they found their niche, and they did a really good job doing what they, their stated goal was.
Yeah, so it's interesting thinking of like little niches that games would fall into, right? Because it would be very easy for this game to fall, for them to take it too serious, like take themselves way too serious, and just be like, okay, this is Gears of War, but our world, this kind of thing, and go too hard. But it sounds like they walked the fine line, right? And they found that like our niche is, we're going to set this really cool sandbox, and then we're gonna let these players like make their own stories in it. So I think like the stuff that I've heard on different podcasts or different people who play it is like, oh, like, yes, we were doing the same mission that everyone's done, but listen to like what happened when I called this in, this thing in, and it was like, I don't know, man. Like, so for full transparency, I literally played less than 2 hours of it because I was able to refund it. Because again, it fell into a very similar category where I was like, I can see why people would think it's fun.
Right.
I couldn't figure out a good control scheme for me. I was like, I played a little bit on controller because I know it has a big console audience and stuff. And I was like, I don't love this. And then I tried playing on mouse and keyboard as well. And I was just like, I don't know. I just didn't love how it played.
The learning curve for the like calling in the stratagems is steep, but once you get it, it's actually one of the more fun. It may be one of my all-time favorite video game mechanics because you basically have to use the D-pad to DDR yourself a grenade launcher.
Yeah.
More or less.
It feels like putting in the Konami code every time.
Yeah, no, but like you get good at it, and it's fun as shit when
like
you can
playing
be
an
like,
instrument.
yeah, no, I mean, like you can. I know. I certainly know the code to call in a revive for my teammates. I can do that one like the back of my hand. But you like, I find myself, typing in the code for something without having to think about it, and that's
cool.
really fun. And the mix of that when you're under pressure, being like just eaten alive by giant insects. It is not a complicated game, but there's rarely a match that I go without laughing out loud. So they hit the sauce for sure.
Is the code for everyone's stratagem, like everyone's revive, is the exact same code?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it does not change. Each stratagem has its own code, longer or shorter depending on the complexity of the item. So like something like an airstrike is pretty short, but if you want to call in the mech robot to walk around and kill shit in, it's much longer.
Sure.
So it's usually contingent on the lifespan of the thing you're calling in, realistically. So the turrets you call in are medium length. Anything that's like a quick airstrike is pretty fast to let you do it pretty quickly as well, which is another game design element that I thought they did really well. And it makes sometimes I don't remember the one for the mech, so you got to sit there and look and pick a good time to figure that out versus you can call an airstrike in 5 seconds.
So does it, like, when you engage the D-pad, does it like pop up a menu and you just navigate different prompts with the arrows?
So it's actually, for me, I hold left bumper, and that allows me to use the D-pad. So it's literally like a revive would be like up, down, left, down, right, up, or whatever.
So,
and so
but
by
there's
holding
no
left bumper.
Yeah, but there's no like on screen, like you're navigating through a page of different options.
No. You just put the code in.
Yeah.
Well, you got your stratagems up in the top left or whatever of your screen, and it shows it in small underneath it. And then it'll fill the arrows in as you put them in.
Okay.
So
but you like pull your attention from
stratagem.
Yeah.
And then you put the code in, and it'll like gray out the ones, because a lot of them start in the same way. So if you start with an up, and that'll gray out like one of them that starts with a down, but then you get further in the progression, and then it'll gray out the other ones. So it basically tells you you're gonna call in this, and then it's a grenade. You basically prime a grenade and then throw the grenade, and the thing will come down where you threw the grenade.
I was thinking you're just raw dogging codes out of memory. I'm like, holy smokes.
Well,
I'd have a freaking Post-it note attached to my monitor.
You don't need it though. Like you get it. Like
that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
What you're suggesting is that yes, it's on the screen, but you don't have to pull your attention away from the actual fight or what you're doing because you can know. Yeah, that's cool. That is a very cool mechanic.
It's a cool ass mechanic. I enjoy the shit out of it, honestly. And the weapons are fun and ludicrous, and the enemies are, they explode into giant puddles of blood, and it's all good. I have no complaints about the game. It's simple and it's fun, and they shouldn't change anything, honestly.
Yeah. I do remember hearing that they had kind of fumbled the post. Basically, they had no idea it was going to be as big as it was.
They were like, oh, fuck.
Sony for sure did not, because Sony doesn't. No. Sony's a second partner, or like a second whatever, second party.
I think it's a PlayStation IP, or like it was like bundled with PlayStation or something, and for Helldivers 1 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So it's a second party situation. They do not own the company that I can't remember their name right now, but they don't own that company. And so they kind of helped with some publishing stuff, but that kind of stuff. So it has been widely known that like Sony had no clue that this is what they were going to. So like, something like Concord that came out and, burnt to a crisp immediately, like never even got off the friggin' launch pad. It's just one of those things that like they had lightning in a bottle, but then the bottle like kind of broke on him, started to escape. So I'm really glad to hear, because I knew that some people had started going back to it, started kind of flooding back to the game and doing that stuff. And so I'm glad to hear that they kind of got things in a row and they said, you know what, like, who's it hurting if this is this strong? Like, just let it be that strong, because it's super fun. And like, if you can make a game, like I like playing Halo, because like we talked about last week, I really like playing Halo, but the most fun I've had is when I'm playing with a lot of people and it's the cool stuff we do, right? Like it's not like, oh, this map is so cool, that's why I keep coming back to Halo. It's like, no, I just sniped that dude's head off and I feel like a badass, and like until I get sniped about 4 seconds later and I'm gloating, whatever. And so
it's usually the trash maps where the most fun happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very similar to that, and they definitely. I mean, it was a B tier, top down shooter from PlayStation. I don't know. I honestly don't know why. I mean, I do know why that it got so popular, because it's great. But on launch, I was excited about it because my buddies and I had played it in high school as like our sit in the basement and drink soda and fuck around on Helldivers game. I couldn't even play for the first like 3 days.
Yeah,
because they were not prepared, and they shit the bed, which is fine. They corrected that, and then
but it almost brought more buzz to it. The fact that there were so many people trying to get in the door, because I had no interest at launch for sure, but I heard more about how bad things were, like people trying to get in and them trying to ramp up and get. I don't know how it works. I don't know if you got to get more servers online or if you just got to expand bandwidth or what you have to do, allocate more resources to it, whatever it is. I'm not going to act like I know, but whatever they had to do more of it quickly.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
They got it, all things considered, they got it quickly.
They got it working. So. Yeah. And I think they basically brought so much attention. They brought their attention so heavily onto it to correct for that. I would imagine then they overcorrected.
Yeah.
And then they sort of like released the death grip a little bit, backed off, realized, they did good, basically. If I had to summarize it, you done good.
Done good. Well, and that helps me kind of segue into my portion, which is, surprise, surprise, Sax is still playing Destiny. Like, that's just who I am in my core at this point. But it's the same concept in the conversation that comes up usually about once a year. I'll hear people in the community, a video comes out or a post on Twitter comes out and people start harping on it, where they say, like, I wish that there was a Destiny 2 that exists where PvP did not exist. Now, at this point, I would argue and say we're kind of there. Like, there is PvP modes in the game. They bring Iron Banner and stuff. And they have, I guess, a small ragtag group that's trying to help balance things, but they've separated the sandboxes so much, so like they used to not want to do that, right? So if a gun did X amount of damage in this, then it scaled in this manner in PvP. But I think it's interesting, like when a game just starts to let the individual parts just identify, like, what makes something fun. Why do people want to keep coming back to it and just double and triple down on that? And so I don't know the answer to it, but what I will say is there's been a lot of question marks, right? With Bungie, with everything, with all the layoffs that they've had, the volatile nature of their business model. Like, it seems like Destiny's been running. They just had their, they just celebrated 10 years of the Destiny series just being out all the way from Destiny 1. We're deep into year 7 at this point of Destiny 2, which is wild to think about. It's a completely different game. We talked a few weeks back about the fact that you can't even play the vanilla Destiny game, even if you have the disc. I can't pop a disc in for that. So the game is completely different. But one thing that they continue to do is they continue to time and time again drop banger raids and dungeons and this in-game content that they drop. And so Nick, do you know, like, so you were over and I told you that Luke Spartan and myself were going and running what was known like as contest mode. Like, do you have any concept of that, being completely on the outside of what that is?
Nope. I get the general idea of raids and dungeons, but
sure.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
A lot of people that do listen probably understand. Like, a raid in Destiny is an activity where you pull 6 people together and you play. Mm-hmm. You can technically do some raids with less than 6. Mountain and I famously did a 5-man raid flawless because Snowy, one of our mods in our clan, did not wake up. So he's in the UK. He did not wake up for it. We had planned and we had been working for weeks on trying to get this flawless run, basically where no one dies. You go through beginning to end, no one leaves, to go to orbit or anything of that sort. You stay in the entire time. And we did it. 5-man. That was a good time. Probably the easiest raid that's in the game, but still, you take a person away, right? Like, contest mode, however, when Bungie releases the dungeons, let me back up. When they release raids into the game, they started by doing what's known as contest mode, where they will amplify the difficulty. I believe it's a modifier of 25 power level, where you are under by 25, because 2010 is the cap right now, and your effective power was 1985 in this dungeon.
Nick, that's not a 25x modifier.
Yeah, no, I got that. Yeah.
Yeah, just 25 levels under, essentially. So everything in the game is up above you at 25 levels. It doesn't matter what you're at, if that makes sense. Like, you have to hit a minimum threshold. So what that just does is, like, every boss, every enemy in the whole thing is so much more of a threat. Every boss has X amount of extra damage that you have to deal for it. Deal to kill it. And so with everything being more dangerous, and then the really, like, the cream of the crop, what makes it the coolest thing is when they're releasing new dungeons or new raids. I keep saying dungeons because they did it for this dungeon, but it's the first time they've ever done a contest mode for a dungeon. They do what's known as the world's first race, which is exactly what it sounds like, where it is a brand new thing that's being introduced into the game at the exact same time. So on Eastern time zone right now, it's 1 p.m. Eastern. They drop and they basically hit go, and everyone in the world has the opportunity to launch it, get in there and run. And if you are the first person to complete every encounter, so raids usually have between 4 and 5 encounters, various difficulties between the encounters. Dungeons usually have 3. I don't think we've even 3 formal looted encounters where you get a chest at the end of it. You have to loot each of encounter and then grab the loot from the final chest and go to orbit. Typically, if you do that, you become world's first. That is, people have literally made their lives on winning world's first. There's a team that in 2018, at the time, it was the longest world's first that had ever existed for the raid called Last Wish. It was well over 18 hours. Actually, it may have just been over 18 hours. I remember going to sleep on Friday. They were still running it, waking up on Saturday morning. And I mean, I was barely into Destiny at this point, like, just kind of dabbling. And I explicitly call back to thinking, like, how wild that was. And I was like, yeah, I'm never going to be someone who's actually competing for world's first, but I would love to be a part of, like, that opened the game up for me, if that makes sense. I was like, I didn't understand that this could even be a reality, that they could make a game hard enough that the best players in the world could take them that long to accomplish something like this. So it's just one of those things it's intoxicating. And so the first time that we put a team together was the next year. It was the next. I'm sorry. It was 2 years, 2 expansions later. So we didn't do a day one during Shadowkeep, which was in 2019, but in 2020, I believe it was November of 2020. That was when Beyond Light came out, and for the Deepstone Crypt raid, we put our first team together, and we went in right at 1 p.m. Eastern. Went in and literally played until 5 a.m. the next day. It was awesome. We did not beat it. We got to the final boss. It was the hardest thing I had ever played, like hardest thing video game wise I'd ever done. I was having so much fun. Died infinite times, it felt like, just trying to figure stuff out, because that's the other piece too. Like, they've done some things where they've pulled back raids from Destiny 1. And so yeah, you have an idea of like the base mechanics of everything. But when you're doing a raid or a dungeon blind for the first time and you have no clue and you're just trying to suss out what's going on, it's invigorating. So like, I find myself, it's kind of a running joke at this point. Like, I tell everyone around me, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do the next one. Like, I'm not hopping into the next one, because it takes a toll physically on you. Like, when you go in, because it used to just be 24 hours. So that's where the term day one comes from, where it's just like, oh, I have the day one. You get like a special emblem in game if you clear it. And the term day one emblem or day one completion, that's where that comes from. But the problem with that is the next year when they released the Witch Queen, there were a ton of server side issues at the beginning of the contest run. So it was supposed to only be 24 hours, and they bumped it out to 48 hours. And so they saw that people would engage with it heavily for the full 48 hours. And so they've bumped it out to that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's diminished the value of it, but I would say that it's made it more accessible, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And so anyways, that was a long-winded way to say this past weekend, I spent time with Spartan and Luke in our server. We were running through the dungeon the first time they did a contest mode dungeon, and Bungie continues to kill it every single time they put a raid or a dungeon into the game. That's something that I would argue that they've never missed on. They've accomplished different goals with the different things, so they've not necessarily hit everything for every person. But I think you could say, even with what a lot of people would say is probably the easiest raid they've ever put out, Root of Nightmares, I still think they hit it. I still think they knocked it out of the park. The weapons that were implemented, the mechanics of it, things of that sort.
The mechanics are so fluid in that raid. Which is almost what makes it easier, because it's so intuitive compared to a lot of the harder raids are puzzle solving, whereas Root of Nightmares doesn't really have any puzzles. It's strictly play cohesively with your team, which you can, I mean, there's shades of gray there, obviously, but it is really heavily towards that side of things, which is excellent.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And just being able to navigate efficiently. So for context, for further context, Nick, there's a team of, obviously we have our clan, Forced to Wipe, was created as a Destiny clan, and we've expanded beyond that in some ways. But there are a ton of different clans throughout the world. And there's this one clan named Elysium that they literally, I believe they 4-peated. So they were world's first for 4 raids in a row, and they were trying to go for the 5-peat with Root of Nightmares. But they were beat handily in that raid by some speedrunners who were just incredibly fluid movers through the game, because that is what was required. So the team that was, the God squad, essentially, like the incredible team, they were so good at being able to come up with damage strategies to overcome these hurdles with the bosses and the things that were being thrown out there. Yep. Whereas that just wasn't required for day one, for the top players, right? For Root of Nightmares. So anyways, I say all that to set the groundwork, not necessarily to tell everyone. And like I said, I know a lot of people who listen, they play Destiny, they understand how cool the raids and dungeons are. The concept, though, that's kind of interesting that I'd like to get your guys' opinion on is like, we have this company that's up against the ropes, right? And they're trying to find their footing. So think Marvel with the MCU. Like, they just, we beat Thanos, everything. I don't know that like comic book movies can ever or will ever come close to anything compared to
Iron Man 1.
I mean, watch Iron Man 1.
It's so different, but we're in the future, I don't think it can ever come to Infinity War or Endgame, right? Like that. I still have no idea how they did that. And so with Destiny, we get to this point where we didn't know who we were really fighting. We had this etheric darkness. To be honest, Bungie didn't even know who we were fighting. Like, they've come out and basically said they didn't know who it was. And they came up with this story and they worked through it and they flubbed it in different ways. But in the final shape, they tied everything up with this neat, tidy bow, and it was awesome and it was great. And so they're coming off of this high of like, oh my gosh, like we kind of landed the plane miraculously and didn't, other than the people they laid off, I guess the analogy kind of falls apart at that point, because I was going to say they didn't have anyone perish, but it's one of these things where they're trying to identify and find themselves. And so the concept of like, Walker, what we were just talking about with Helldivers is like, they decided to double down on what made the game fun. And I guess, I pitch it to you guys. Like, what is your opinion of like, my thought is like Bungie just needs to double. I'm not saying we need more of them every year, because it's what makes it special.
But they're hard to make, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. And with dedicated teams, but the concept of like, hey, in this world where you're trying to find your new identity, like doubling down on the things that you do well, and kind of almost forsaking the things that you may have done well in the past, things of that sort. I guess, Walker, you have a little more context for it, but what are your thoughts on Bungie kind of their path moving forward? Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I am a firm believer in the power of a good ending, and being confident and happy with something terminating. And what does that mean? From a storytelling perspective, it's very easy for me to say, land the plane, be done, take your hands off. And I would have been probably happy if they'd ended it at the killing the witness. But, I recognize from a business perspective, from a keeping the studio going perspective, you got to keep going, right? Like, and then the question is do you make another game that is totally different from Destiny? Do you make Destiny 3? I mean, or do what they're doing. And I don't know if they're making Destiny 3. I don't know what's going on with Marathon, but it is extremely impressive that they managed to keep a game running for so many years. Like, I don't know of any other game that is like, I mean, I know it's a live service game. I mean, like what, World of Warcraft maybe, but
RuneScape.
Very few games are still,
well, even
hitting their tempos like that.
To your point, Nick, even RuneScape had to had to relaunch OG, right? Like, World of Warcraft did the same thing. Like, they didn't they implement like a version of it that was kind of just back to basics?
I don't know about that one. I only know about RuneScape because our buddy James Evans plays it still. Texts me about it every
Dougie does too.
Does he?
AJ Dougie Fresh hops into RuneScape on a daily. I think he plays from his phone. I think there's a way that you can play on your phone.
Do that, yeah. No, you could definitely do that. I think Watts does too, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But I think Bungie broadly does a good job with Destiny. I mean, I've got a lot of time in Destiny, so I like it. Obviously, I'm biased, but I hope they manage to correct the shakeups in the studio and get things back on a steady, even keel. But this dungeon was really good. I enjoyed the shit out of it. They did some great mechanics. It was really good. So I mean, it continues to bring me confidence in their ability to give good content. Now they just need to I don't know, figure out what their path forward is. And that was your question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I think that they're talented game designers, and whatever they choose to do, I probably will partake. Quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same mindset. Nick, where do you come down? So like, obviously I know we've said it many times, you know, you have a little bit of time in Destiny, things of that sort, but what would it take, like, as someone who's on the outside, like, what would it take for you to be like, you know what, like, I send you a trailer, I could send you any Destiny trailer, or I post them in chats, you might see whatever. What would it actually take for someone like yourself who has very minimal time in the Destiny world, like, to get excited for it? Would it be like a flagship Destiny 3, you know, full reset? Do you feel like you would be too far behind, you know, at this point with everyone else, or where are you at?
I think if they just gave me some Master Chief skins, I'd be all about it.
Honestly.
No, yeah. No, I don't worry about being, you know, behind and having to catch up or whatever. Because one, I know that I'd be playing with you guys and the people in the clan, so I'm never going to catch up in that aspect. You probably have more hours.
I could argue
in
and say, I could argue and say you would catch up faster than anyone else would. You know, because you have people, because that's one of the hardest things about Destiny, is like, if you go in there and just wander into it, it's like you've wandered into literal different universe, but you just don't, it's so hard to understand. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine. I just mean on like a skill level type, like being familiar with all the mechanics and weapons and all that. But like, I don't know, maybe time if I have more time to sit down and play. So like, part of the problem is a lot of times the group activities, raids and dungeons or whatever go on when I'm not available. And it's hard for me personally to make that time commitment, although I'd like to. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should start looking more. That's the wrong way to say it. If I were exposed more to Destiny, because I'm not in the Destiny channels in the server in the Discord, because I'm not in Destiny. But if I were to expose myself more, maybe like gameplay footage or streamers or subscriptions on YouTube or whatever, I would probably pique my interest in a different way. I don't know. I've talked about it before. I get really into a niche. Like, I have a very specific, widely varied niche of games I'm interested in, and it's like mostly race cars and dumb stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I would have to jump in, spend a little bit of time, grind, and then have a really good, like, oh shit, this is fun experience, and then I'd probably be hooked.
Yeah. I think it's like a balance thing, right? So like, I was talking with Spartan a couple weeks ago about it, and I was kind of reminiscing. So one of the main things for me with Destiny, and the reason I keep coming back to it, is because I do so much like teaching and trying to like help other people. So like, I've found I don't really care about the loot in the game. Like, yeah, I want, like, from the aspect of just like personal selfishness and like whatever, be like, oh, I look what I got, you know, that kind of thing. Like, yes, that does scratch an itch, but at the end of the day, like, we have so many good weapons at this point. In every single season, they just have, the only way to keep people interested, you have to power creep the last thing, and at some point, it just, like, I just get tiresome of it, right? Like, it's when they put something wholly new in the game that is like, okay, I want that, but I don't really care if I get this GL, this grenade launcher that does like 2% more damage if you are standing between 5 enemies when you fire it. You know what I mean? I got to put myself in the most dangerous situation possible, so I'm surrounded, so I get this buff. Like, yeah, it's cool and it's niche, but I'll just watch a YouTuber who goes and sits in this dungeon until they find the very perfect scenario that they can get a YouTube short clip up, and it's like, oh, that's cool that it does that, but I'm never going to be able to replicate it, like that kind of thing. But I find so much more enjoyment. Like, I've had so many people. I can go any day of the week. If I need something to do in Destiny, I've made my own game, because I can go into the Destiny 2 LFG Discord server and I will just put in there, hey, I'm willing to Sherpa X raid, X dungeon. And I find people. That's how I found, that's how like we came across Spartan and Captain. We just put out a thing and said, hey, does anyone want to run day one? Like, we were just trying to mess around with contest mode Kingsfall, and we beat the first encounter on contest mode with them two and 2 other strangers. We did not vibe with the other 2 strangers, so we don't talk with them anymore. But Spartan's a mod in the clan, and Captain's been around for a long time, and so we really, we have so many, like, that this whole clan is pretty much built on the back of like just us being willing to teach and do that and kind of make our own game with it. And so selfishly, I want Bungie to continue to create this content that it's aspirational for people, but not everyone has the gift. I don't know, that sounds like all high end hoity toity, but like the ability to boss 5 other people around in a way that doesn't make them pissed at you and want to come back. Like, I feel like I can wrangle humans pretty well in a gaming space where that, a lot of people can be kind of hard to pull them together. And so leveraging that has been more of a game and more fulfilling for me. And I think that's why I continue to play Destiny. And that's why I was so excited running this dungeon, because the last raid that came out, they had to walk this line of like, okay, this is where we beat the big bad that's the biggest threat of the entire universe, right? So it has to be the hardest thing they've ever put out. And it was by far, like, for sure contest mode. But for me, trying to teach this raid to people it's like presenting a dissertation. The 4th encounter of Salvation's Edge, it completely takes a left turn, and we just go into full-fledged geometry. You have to know that a cylinder is made of a square and a circle put together, like that kind of shit. And like, some people just don't have the ability to do that and be able to understand, like, think in 2D space and 3D space and stuff. And so, but this is the stuff that I'm putting myself through to learn, to try to get ahead of. So I was concerned that this is the path that Bungie was taking. Like, with all their content, they were just going to go in and they were going to say, hey, we feel like you guys have gotten too good, so we're just going to push things forward and just, make things as brutal as possible. And that's not what they did with this dungeon. The contest mode was brutal and it was hard, but it's fair and it is easy to teach, because they do a good job in, like, the first encounter, you teach certain mechanics and then they carry that forward. So then the second encounter, you teach a little adjusted mechanics, and the third encounter, you put it all together and, do your thing. And so I guess I say all this to say, and I'll wrap this up for tonight, because we've gone a little longer, is I'm excited for the future of what's coming for Destiny. I'm excited for what this is going to look like. And I'm excited for the ability to continue teaching aspects of the game, even if I don't get deeply integrated or deeply pulled into every aspect of the seasonal content, every event they put out, every title they put out for every niche little thing. Like, I don't need to do that anymore. And so I'm finding that to be a good place. And so I don't know, as video games become less and less of a priority, I'm excited at the prospect that Bungie may double down on the stuff that, makes the game still fun for me. So, do you guys have any last thoughts on any of that, or do you get your thoughts summed out pretty well?
I don't know. I'll let you know when I'm available for raids.
Let's go.
You should try one. That was like Sax said, that was definitely. I mean, like Destiny without a clan is a very mediocre game. It really is. That's a really hard truth about it. But when you get and it's a live service game, so if you don't have the time to put into it, it's kind of a non-starter. But when you've got the group, doing those raids is just a ton of fun. At the end of the day, that's what keeps people coming back. That end game content. So
also, Fortnitemares win.
It's a great question. It's a great question. I feel like every time I fire up Fortnite, I have an update for it, and then someone's late getting on, and then it's like, all right. It really, really depends on how we set the tempo with our first couple games. If we get real close, we're doing well, everything's feeling locked in. All right, I can play Fortnite for a good couple hours. But if I get ran and they get emoted on immediately, I'm out, man. Like
you can't start your night playing with Luke.
I know, it's so true.
He's too sweaty.
He changes his skill bracket for us, and just the vibes get all off for him and for us. So doing that. Well, boys, this has been a good conversation. Appreciate you guys as always. So, if you're still here, thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys. Leave your comments, shoot us a message, send something on, I guess you can leave Spotify comments on there. There is a section. I can see them on there.
That's amazing.
If you're watching on YouTube.
Loyal fans.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys, for doing that, and, see you next time.